Hi, this is Marty Duran. Everyone realizes we're living in uncertain times and that life is changing faster than many people can process it. In uncertainty, the question people must always ask is, how do I understand and how should I respond? That's one of the main reasons I wrote The Disparate Ones, essays on being in the world but not of the world. The 17 essays in this short volume will both challenge you to think well during these times and, I believe, leave you encouraged about facing these times. Purchase The Disparate Ones now wherever you order books.
On today's edition of Stories from Real Life with Melvin E. Edwards. Our guest for this episode is Philadelphia native turned Costa Rican Richard Blank. Richard is the CEO of Costa Rica's call center, one of the largest such businesses in Latin America. As soon as he arrived in the country more than 25 years ago, he knew he needed to take the risk.
I mean, you need to take a deep breath and not be scared of it. Because there will be one day when that time has passed and you look back and you go, man, I wish I did walk across the dance floor and asked her to dance, and I wish I stood up for myself, or I wish I took a chance. Like, my stuff was calculated, dipping toes, going further. It was the momentum on Spanish and the reinforcement. I just had one in a million opportunities that I had to make my case.
He's now glad he did. Let's join today's episode from Costa Rica with CEO Richard Blank.
You are listening to Stories from Real Life, a podcast by engaging storytellers for engaged story listeners. Here's your host, author and journalist, Melvin E. Edwards.
Hello again, and welcome to another episode of Stories from Real Life. I'm your host, Melvin E. Edwards. Thanks for joining me for the podcast where personal stories can have a global impact. Speaking of global, this show is heard by listeners in 32 countries, including Costa Rica, where our guest, Richard Blank, has lived for more than 2 decades. Hello, Richard, and thanks for being here today.
Melvin, so happy to be with you and on your show. I can't wait to share some stories and have a good time.
That sounds good to me. My first question to you is already out of left field. Are you related to the famous voice actor Mel Blanc?
Oh, I wish I was, and I'd be rolling in the bucks. But what a talented artist, Mel Blanc, and all of his amazing voices and characters that he portrayed.
Well, since you're not related to him, and my name is Mel, and your last name is Blank, we can combine forces, and we can be our own version of Mel Blanc. Don't know if we're either one is talented. Go ahead.
We definitely have our skills, but no, he spelled his last name with a C while my grandfather had it as a K.
I actually looked it up, and the real spelling of his name was with a K. He changed it to C for Hollywood.
Oh, even better then.
All right, so Richard is the first guest to have reached out to me via the guest sign-up link on my website at podcastreallife.com. So I appreciate his initiative and look forward to this conversation. So the first question I want to ask you, other than your name, is how you were able to hire former NXS bassist Gary Beers to perform at one of your events.
One of my best friends in Costa Rica is a rock star named Igni Faroki, and he wrote a song about my call center called Shine Like the Sun. So, of course, NXS is my favorite band. I listened to some of their podcasts. And Gary Beers mentioned that he owned a company out in Los Angeles. I checked it out, and one section was Hire Gary. If you got a song, he'll take a listen to it. So I sent it to him, amongst 3 pages of how much I love their music, and he's the man. But it's the kind of thing where price didn't matter. You're at the restaurant, order what you like. He said, Richard, I can offer you this, and this. I go, I'll take it all. So he played bass on a track. He also added a couple synthesizer and other different wah and ways to play. And then he did a performance video for us. And so I would have just paid him the money just for writing me. But the fact that he did it was great. But Melvin, I tell you, my friend, a lot of people get inspiration from art in many different ways, from music and paintings and whatever. But there's a transfer of energy when compared to AI, which is beautiful and convenient. If somebody puts the time and effort into doing something, in my mind, it's extra special. And so this was very amazing what happened, and it's priceless for me. And I'm just very happy that I did it.
Yeah, that sounds like it would be a ton of fun. I'm a big NXS fan too.
We filmed a rock video in the call center, which complemented Gary's performance video. And so that was kind of fun too. But I will say this, if you're ever an executive producer or director of something like a novice, it's very difficult to organize people. I can understand the stories of behind the scenes in Hollywood. You got these people that are all over the place trying to like gather chickens. They're just running all over the place. I'm trying to get them to do something. And so, there's only so much pizza that can go around. But it's fun. Listen, if you go into these things with a good spirit and you yuck it up a little bit and you just try to enjoy your day, you can sometimes produce magic.
All right, you grew up in Philadelphia and graduated from Abingdon High School in 1991. Then you went to college in Arizona and have lived in Costa Rica for more than 20 years, as I mentioned earlier. Was it always your goal to escape Philadelphia?
As I mentioned about the barn door being open, that horse is gone. And so I was building on momentum. Growing up, Spanish was my favorite class. And unlike friends that went to medical school and law school, I doubled down on it. And in Arizona, really, it was dedicated practice. I was doing so much outside of the classroom. And anytime somebody goes above and beyond, they do well. And so I got a lot of positive reinforcement from the Latino community. I was the only one of my friends that could do it. And I figured that once I graduated, I might be marketable and might have skills. And next thing you know, it just made things a lot easier when I did the transition to Costa Rica, because I was able to show very good faith in the beginning when I met people.
Nice. Some of your high school alums include Heisman Trophy winner Eddie George and actor-comedian Bob Saget. Did you ever meet those guys at homecoming events?
Bob Saget, no, but Eddie George was the class of 91, so I remember him until he left us after 10th grade. But also Sean Wooden was in my class as well, played for the NFL. They're great. These are superstars. Stephen Schwartzman of Blackstone Group, Amber Bose, Ashton Carter, the Secretary of Defense. And so we've had so many proud alumni in the fact that this past year, or in 2023, I was inducted into the Hall of Fame with these guys in the area of business. And I was the long shot. I do a second language scholarship every year for a graduating senior. Someone's going to devote their time to learn a second language. That's real obvious, and I can relate to it. And so if I can pay for books freshman year, that's my pleasure, and to pay it forward. But I tell you what, I really am loyal to individuals that have assisted along the way. Abington was wonderful. I had teachers that gave me second chances and principals that wrote recommendation letters when, if you think academically, did I deserve it? No. But I did other things outside the classroom which really showed loyalty. So, of course, they're trying to help me get into college. And so without those sort of advantages by people that believed in me when I still wasn't mature yet, I really had to make that circle complete and just once again just say thank you and how much I appreciate that sort of direction when I was young and impressionable. And, Arizona and Tucson? Do you know how much fun that was? I did the 5-year plan. I was in no rush to get out of there. But those were wonderful years. And since I was taking enough credits, I could also spend time doing internships for Telemundo, and I raised money for Casa de los Niños. And check this out, Melvin. I also sold trips to Reno for skiing and Mazatlan for spring break. Not only I get mine free, got a bunch for my friends too. And so
that's awesome.
You're building on skills at a fun age where you didn't feel the pressure.
Well, having the scholarship that you endow is, I'm sure, is very special to the students who earn it. And just knowing that an alumni is giving back to the school and gives them dreams that bigger than they could probably envision themselves. My son happened to have won a Bill Belichick scholarship when he was in high school. Belichick went to the Annapolis High School where my son graduated. So I know that that helped him with college, and it helped with his confidence too, because everybody knows who Bill Belichick is, and so that was a great thing for him, and I'm sure it is for those students who win your scholarship. So how did you end up at the University of Arizona?
Once again, my grades. I had to take the SATs a couple times. Hey, why? Let's think of it so many ways. The weather was great. It was a large school. I had campus life. After my freshman year, I paid in-state tuition, was next to nothing. The cost of living was nothing. And they were beautiful people. Everyone was pretty. And the rec center was fun, hanging out by the pool. And Revenge of the Nerds was filmed there. It was great.
I didn't know that.
I tell you what, though, as I say before, a lot of people study things. I needed to go to a place where I didn't move to Mexico. I did spend my junior year abroad in Spain, which was great. I did the whole year there. But I knew that if I were in Tucson, the moment I left that classroom and just traveled 5 minutes, I could have a half an hour to an hour's worth of conversation in Spanish. And so I needed that. I'm not that smart. I needed practice. I wanted to make it fun. Because when you sit down and study vocabulary, you got to pound it out for 6 months. This Duolingo and other programs, I think it's fine, but really it's just about concentrated focus and study of the grammar. And then the rest is vocabulary. But then here's the trick. It's really the phonetic ear. So I would watch things in Spanish, but I needed Spanish underneath as well, not a subtitle. Just show me what's going on. Why? Because in real life, Melvin, there's car that are noisy, music, people screaming. So in most life, you only get 70%. Think about it in English in a club. You're like, what? And so I said, I need to train it so I can get 60% and guess the rest. And so I was trying to read lips and see body language and see if I could understand the plot. And so there's ways to make education fun. It just doesn't have to seem like a chore. And so the moment that I made it where I hated it, it would have never happened. I realized it was a very long walk that I was doing here, and it needed patience and pacing.
So how did you end up in Costa Rica?
My man, I was in between jobs at 27, sending out my resume on a fax machine, hoping to get hired somewhere in Tempe. This was post-grad. Anyway, my cousin Joe came by and he said, listen, Richie, we have a very good friend that owns a call center in Costa Rica. Why don't you take 2 months and come down, teach some English, take a time out. And when I stepped off the plane, I don't know about you, but you might get that sixth sense and the chills or whatever the movie does to play that music to let you know something's going to change. Melvin, I was shedding skin, and I also knew at 27 I wasn't too old nor too young, but still dumb, wise, and brave enough to go for it. And I fell in love with my current wife, and at my friend's center, I learned the business from the inside out. It's the art of speech. It was beautiful to see rhetoric. And it was a fun environment. I gravitated towards it and I took it seriously. And so after my 4 years there, I decided in my mid-30s to throw my hat in the ring and start the center. I knew everything minus the C level. But what's C level? It's a different type of coach. You know, I tell you, there are certain individuals that bring the best out of people. And the only thing that I know are those individuals that mentored me. From my hockey coaches to certain teachers that I mentioned to incredible best friends and my family. So I'm going on my own wisdom, around my own fire, my own tall tales. And if you sprinkle on some Philadelphia and some grit and the fact that I am a guest in your country, so look at the backbone behind that. Be bold and be brave. And so maybe people can catch that energy. And if I do things that are not offensive, and just being a little assertive because you have to be confident, maybe they will see the difference and walk with me. And so I always took it that way. I always wanted to keep an open mind and be exceptionally respectful because I might be here over 2 decades, but it's not the point. It's still not home court advantage. You know how that is, Melvin.
Yes. I've read that you had to get past a lot of family guilt and society pressure to live what you call a true spiritual life. What do you mean by that?
Of course. Every single friend of mine was going to medical, law school, engineering. They had, as I mentioned, plans. And my family, my grandfather went to Harvard Law. Dad went to Columbia Business. My older brother went to Washington Lee. Man, those are driving past 300 yards. What? And so I wanted to do this. I didn't want to be broken. You can bend me, just don't break me. Or maybe if I learn leverage, I can remove certain weight and go further distances. And I just wasn't playing a game with this. This is life. And you might need to be a fool card from time to time if you're reading fortunes. I mean, you need to take a deep breath and not be scared of it, because there will be one day when that time has passed and you look back and you go, man, I wish I did walk across the dance floor and asked her to dance. And I wish I stood up for myself, or I wish I took a chance. My stuff was calculated, dipping toes, going further. It was the momentum on Spanish and the reinforcement. I just had 1 in a million opportunities that I had to make my case. It's very difficult to live 3,000 miles away from your family and friends. And those that say no, N-O, means they don't K-N-O-W enough about your plan. And just because they've never done it means it can't be done. And then I had to get old school guilt. You want to hear what I did? Look at great grandpa. Yeah, Melvin, great grandpa came from Eastern Europe, moved to New York, learned English. Come on, man. Imagine what happened with great grandma grilling him. We wouldn't even be here today. Think about how proud they were if someone has the guts, the true guts, to go for it. And it's almost like a hero's journey. Even if you take one step, almost like Steve Martin in The Jerk, when he left his house, he was trying to leave and he got his first ride, which took him to the end of not his block, I think the end of his fence. At least he started, my man. And so, listen, it is the first step. And I was proud of myself. Deep breaths underwater, you can do it. And little by little, you get first downs. And then eventually, Melvin, you get touchdowns. And then it happens again and again and again. And you get stronger, you get faster. And then you start noticing things in people that could be adjusted or making a suggestion. And then they turn around and support you and pay it forward in their ways. And so these are very nice, innocent circles that you can create with people where they don't feel pressure around you and they enjoy your company. And so I had to release certain things that I was used to in Philadelphia and Arizona to make the sort of change here in Costa Rica.
So at what point did you start to feel like you were at home in Latin America?
The second I walked off the plane. It's like the Brady Bunch video when they go, to Hawaii? I mean, come on. You know, when you're in vacation, when you walk off the plane and the weather feels good and it smells good and everyone looks good, you're out of your mind. This is 10 times better than home. No offense. And so I wanted to live in a place that felt like a Saturday where I didn't, feel bad going home. I am home and I wanted to stay as long as possible. And I wanted to start a new life. I wanted to see, without any sort of connections or advantages or things that I knew, can I literally start from scratch and see if I could do something in life? Yeah, but you would have made more money in the States at your family's real estate business. I know. But I also wanted to drink life. And I wanted to see what I could do. And the home-cooked meal tastes 10 times better. It's been an interesting run. And as I say, you have to let things go away. And you have to make peace with things. But I tell you what, Melvin, if you do things with honorable intentions and good faith, you shouldn't have a heavy heart. And that's how I've been able to manage those sort of really large decisions that did not involve my family and certain friends, the naysayers. It's because they love you. It's like the kind of friend that holds you back from standing up for yourself. That could be a changing moment in your life where if you did stand up for yourself, you still have backup. But that was a moment that you really wanted to do something. And so I don't think anybody should ever take away a flame or a spark in someone if they see that it makes them shine.
You said you started from scratch. But
Yeah.
You've been the chief executive officer of Costa Rica's call center since 2008. You earn a seven-figure annual salary and you employ 150 employees. Did you go to Costa Rica specifically to start a call center, or did the idea sort of evolve after you got involved in that business?
I was supposed to just come down and teach English for a couple months. I don't want to go home. I was having way too much fun. The beaches here are beautiful. The life was incredible. And I just wanted to, and maybe I just wanted to take a walkabout and have a timeout and just see what it's like before I just jump into my 30s and lose my hair. Yeah. So anyway, no one ever wants to be a CEO of a call center. Ask a single kid growing up in high school what they want to be when they grow up, or even in kindergarten. It's always astronauts and firemen. No one ever says call center. In fact, you're raised to hate us and hang up on us. Seriously, and look what Hollywood does with us in television shows. I mean, seriously. I mean, if you had one life vest and it was a used car salesman or a telemarketer, wait, don't tell me. I'm only kidding. My point being, Melvin, damn it, this is the kind of thing that is a very nice thing. It's soft skills. It's really advanced communication skills. It's a way to retain a client and to make somebody's day. But I saw the interworkings of a call center. You could always use the server room, the predictive dialer, disposition reports, noise canceling headsets, QA, and automation. But I was looking for the magic. I was looking to see how many times someone name dropped and did a Me Too technique or anchored in certain ways and things they have in common, or maybe did fancy due diligence prior so they found many ways to connect. Did they do the positive escalation and they mentioned Judy before being transferred to Melvin, how great she is? Do it verbally and in writing, because you're the only one out of 1,000 that does that. And so I saw the beauty of it. It's really nice and it's very lucrative. And these are the sort of skills that you can use outside of the office. And so it didn't seem like it was going to hurt. It's a gym. Sometimes you learn the machines, you learn the exercises, and you actually like the burn, but you also see the result. You look beautiful and you feel strong and you feel confident. You let off steam and you recharge your batteries and you meet people that are like you, that are winners and that are linguists and that are individuals that believe in the old 1-2, picking up a phone and calling somebody, compared to omni-channel non-voice, which is text, email, and chatting, which is fine. Oh, but Melvin, look at me and you right now talking face to face. That's great. Second best is the phone call. Third best is the long email that's personalized. The fourth is that chat. It's terrible. And so I think it's a concierge. I think it's a luxury. People are going to miss it, especially on the uncanny valley. When things get too freaky and too human-like, people are going to freak out. And they're going to wish for the homemade meal or for the gentleman that draws your silhouette in chalk in the plaza. That will seem like the most beautiful art when you see individuals that are looking to increase the essence of humanity, Melvin.
What does the term vision quest mean to you?
Just like the movie in 1985. I love that movie with Loudon Swain that had to wrestle the Shoot, who was the state champion. And so you're born for certain things. You might not be able to put it on paper. You might not be able to explain it. But for some odd reason, you can faintly see it, taste it, or even just your own body tells you to move in a certain direction. And so for me as a boy, I knew that leaving castles and slaying dragons and saving princesses was the way to go, at least once in your life. And that's why children sometimes are mischievous, because they want to have a good story to tell or a wonderful memory. But how do you explain a vision quest? Each person's different, but for me, it's really, you can tell naturally if you are proud and satisfied with yourself, and it's got nothing to do with money. It has an enormous amount of self-respect, okay, and balance and center. There are so many times you are pushed off the path or paused, or weights are attached to you. And a vision quest as well is willing to die for something, because if not, you will never, ever feel complete. And as I mentioned, the guilt part, we spoke about that earlier. I had to upset some people and make people sometimes angry, and I had to live with it. And sometimes you second guess it. But the ones that I believe get to the highest high are the ones that literally have to do it by themselves. They might join groups and scientists and musicians and people come together, but isn't it beautiful to see pictures of individuals as babies like Albert Einstein, or Jimi Hendrix? You just see these incredible people and you're like, do you realize what you grew up into and what you've done with society? And so, but as the baby, do you think they realized? Do you think they realized what sort of adventure they were going to have in life? They did. It's inside of you. And so, as I say, you can find it through either meditation or decompressed stimulation. I get it through washing cars, playing pinball, hitting the gym, long walks. Little by little, I'll get glimpses of clarity and priority. I don't get the whole blueprint, but it's more than enough, like in our choose your own adventure, to at least choose one or two doors. And then we're on to the next one to be continued. And so, yeah, man, live life like that. Just, click your heels, move forward and smile. I mean, that's just the way it should be.
That's awesome. All right. You just mentioned pinball, and I know you're a pinball aficionado. Tell me about your love for pinball machines and how you began collecting them.
The same age. We grew up during the years of the arcades, and I could play asteroids for 45 minutes, but a pinball machine, that quarter and sometimes 50 cents, those things go quick. That's a luxury item. I can't afford that. It's like a senior in high school. But I knew this, though. I love the marquees and the artwork, and I love the sounds and the fantasy and design. And so I always said to myself, if I ever had the money and the space, I'm going to grab at least a machine. Well, little do I know that arcades are going out of business in Costa Rica and people are giving them away. And so you have to make a decision. Do you take all you can eat? Of course you do. Of course you do. Like Alaskan king crab legs. Come on, Melvin. It's only $19.99. And of course we're going to eat till we get sick. More butter, please. More butter. No salad, no bread. I want it all. And so my point being is that they're just giving them away for a couple $100. And if you replace a couple things behind the marquee that have burnt out or corroded, these machines work. And you're sitting on a $5,000 machine. And so one turned into two, which turned into four, which turned into eight. And we currently have 11 machines. And I couldn't be any happier. I got a nice little bodega at my house, and it's there. My wife knows that's a hill I'm willing to die on. So we got it. And so, but it makes me incredibly happy to restore these gorgeous machines. And Melvin, if I had to choose, it's the ones from the 70s. My oldest is a 1970 Bally's Camelot. My newest is a 94 Data East Lax Action Hero. But the 70s, it's electromechanical, so it's just contacts. It's easier to clean. It's more of an open play field. That's the years that they painted the wood compared to laminates and stickers and the back glass, and sometimes it's the old wheel. And listen to the bells and the xylophone. And look at the gorgeous artwork on the cabinet. They're incredible. They're gorgeous. They're fun to play. Each one has their own personality. And just like Christine, that movie with Stephen King, they have their own energy. They could either love you and give you all the points or just shoot that ball right down the middle and say F you. So it's just one of those things. But a beautiful hobby, and it is affordable. And as long as you find things that are just no-namers, you don't have to get the ones that are most famous. But yeah, you can pick one up for a couple $100, maybe $1,000, and there's something beautiful in your living room.
Nice. So do pinball machines require any of the soft skills that you've learned in call center communications or international business?
Absolutely, my good friend. Living in the now. When you play a game, it's hand-eye coordination and timing. Plus you have the sights and the sounds and the distractions and the focus. It's like a runner in place at a stoplight, and you never want to ice a kicker. And football. So if you're coming downstairs in between calls every couple hours, yeah, grab a bite to eat and some coffee. And instead of having a cigarette or being by yourself on Instagram or just isolated, might as well make some friends, have some fun, and get yourself right. And plus you're going to, Melvin, they're going to be playing games that they're never going to be able to see in their life. That's not virtual pinball. These are the real things. And so I want them to have that sort of experience and to hang out with me, because recess was the best class in school. And if you see somebody laugh, you see another side of them. And if I can relate to somebody at that level, it drops so many barriers in a good way. And so they're not afraid anymore. And so then we can get that budding squire into a knight and get them even to new levels.
So you're talking about the human bond. What are some pros and cons of artificial intelligence as opposed to those soft skills of the human touch?
It's a wonderful question. The pros, of course, is just efficiency. I mean, they're going to be gathering like amazing machines when they master the integrated voice response and they've updated drop downs that are more applicable, or just it's going to replace a lot of frontline workers at a call center. But the one thing they'll never, ever be able to replace is empathy. I mean, some people always press 0 and the AI can't tell me they know how I feel if I break my arm or my puppy runs away. So we have to be very realistic. And so I believe that sometimes if people are working with a company or want to give their hard-earned money or want to feel appreciated, they might want to speak with somebody. And so I think that, yes, there will be a reduction of staff, but then again, our call center will be much more effective.
All right. What is the famous buffer boomerang technique to close sales?
Of course, it's just an adjustment of a tone. Usually when people are prospecting, calling companies, or meeting someone for the first time, they may ask you a question. Like if you say, hey, what is your name? I would say your name, Melvin. That's an excellent question. My name is Richard Blank. I would name drop you, let you know it's a good question. Repeat the question so you know I'm paying attention, and then send back as a +2 compared to your -2. So then I gauge the positive or negative reinforcement. It's usually positive. And you go, okay, Richard Blank, what company are you with? Ah, Melvin, I knew you were going to ask that. The name of my company? Costa Rica Call Center. And so you play your odds. It's a buffer boomerang. It's a half moon. It's a name drop. Great question. Repeat question. Send it back positive. It's funny. You might seem like, well, they're going to know this. I'm doing that. No, they're not. It's the first time they're hearing that. And it's the 1000th time you're doing it. But that's your skill. You know how to dance the tango. But it's just a way for the gatekeeper to not just put you in the basket of don't call again, take me off your list. Is this a scam or a sales call? And it's interesting, prior to that, if I may give some advice, I like to do a company name spike prior. Stories from real life. How are you today? I don't do that the whole call, but I can be anonymous for the first 3 seconds. Why? I can be anybody. So then you gauge the reinforcement. They go, hey, who is this? Compared to, hi, may I speak to Melvin, please? Is this a sales call? So do I buffer it in the beginning? Of course I do, but at least give me a fighting chance. Let me start off neutral and see if you like my phonetic tone of confidence and empathy. Let's see if I can mirror image and match your speed and your speaking level. Engage your answering speed to see when the silence is there. And if it's something is out of beat a little bit, I'll ask tie down or clarification questions just to make sure, Melvin, we have checkpoints so I can move forward. So instead of a 10-minute conversation, you and I are having 20, 30-second checkpoints in order to make sure that we're moving this thing forward. And that's how pipelines are built, sales are made, doors are never left open. And, always ask for military alphabet when you're spelling names. So emails don't bounce back, and a lot of people proudly have served in the military. So instead of the call ending, you have an encore. You get to talk a little bit more about someone's amazing service and how much they're a hero. And I love things like that. So as I mentioned, my friend, it's just a floating feather. You don't have to push a sale like the Wolf of Wall Street or Boiler Room. Amazing talent, but once again, a lot of people don't dance to that speed. There's so many different ways to give a message and a delivery. And for me personally, I think the best thing somebody can do is to be as authentic as possible. If you hear a dog in the background, stop pitching and let them know how much you love dogs. And what's the dog's name, its breed, and how old's your puppy? Things like that. And so these are the little things that can drop a defense from a 10 to a 4, and you take that 6 and move it forward. And so it's, as I mentioned, it's just readjustments of tone.
It's really interesting. So I just have a couple more questions for you.
Of course.
All right. For this one, what are the 3 most important things in the world to you?
Yes, number 1 would be family. And number 2 would be my health. And number 3, I guess, would be a form of spirituality, because it happens in all shapes and sizes.
So not pinball machines.
No, man, let's be realistic. If I had to make some serious, you're asking about like philosophical, but if my building is burning, if my building's burning, do I have to bring 3 things? First, my wife. Come on. My dog? Yeah, maybe a pinball machine. Damn, Melvin, you put me in a tough position.
All right, wife or pinball machine?
Yeah, you're funny.
But the 1970s pinball machines, that's probably the...
How am I going to carry it by myself? If my wife helps me carry the pinball machine, does it count as one? No, yeah.
We'll have to work on the terms later.
Yes, please. Give me some wiggle room.
Yeah, I don't want to get you in trouble. All right, so for the final question for today, what advice do you have for the listeners out there?
Best bit of advice is just not to be hard on yourself. At the end of the day, just know you gave it your all. You can look at yourself in the mirror, give yourself 5. It's important that you have that sort of spark in you to continue. Me, I had to hedge my bet. Living abroad is exotic. Spanish is fun. So even on my worst day, I'm still having a good day. But if you're trapped, in a sense, and I think you know what I mean, in one way or another, even if you're in the smallest of space, you can still close your eyes and find something to do. But start with the basics. Your health is exceptionally important. Try to rest. Eat well if you can. Hit the gym if you got the time. I love creatine and protein. I enjoy those things. And so if you can find that sort of structure and discipline, you might have your own me time. So you can get everybody away and have your own thoughts. Because as I mentioned, you might feel crowded. And so you might see priority, let go of weight. As I mentioned, not be hard on yourself. And if you're given the luxury of time to sleep on it, write a draft and not send it, maybe me and Melvin might have a different conversation the next day. And so those are sort of the supreme pizza bits of advice that I could give to you and your amazing audience.
Well, that sounds like good advice. So we hope that everybody out there takes the advice and does something with it. So that's the end of our conversation today. Our guest has been Richard Blank. Richard, thank you so much for being here. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Great being here.
Please go to my website at podcastreallife.com for more information about my guests and the things we discussed today. That's it for today's episode of Stories from Real Life. Join us again next time for another chance to learn from each other. Until then, don't forget to shine your light wherever you go.
That was Stories from Real Life. Join us again next week for another great storytelling journey. See you next time.